In '05, we started out with approximately 50 men. And from '05 to present, we've went from 50 to approximately 900 people. And we've been on every major site in Fort McMurray through maintenance or major construction or assisting or part of the major construction. The success of this company is not all mine. I raised 3 sons, put them through university, and they all came to the company. Kelly's the VP of operations, Sean is the VP of field operations, and Corey's our fab manager. So all of this came together to help grow what I had already established.
When we tender a silo or a CPF or a pad, we'll come in when it's civil complete. So they're ready to drive piles in the ground, put the structural on, set major mechanical equipment, pipe to all that equipment, and then manage other subs for electrical and insulation, stuff like that. Okay. So we'll basically take it from when it looks like a level field till it looks like an actual facility. Probably around about 2007, we started to see, we were getting up to that 450 in manpower head count, and we were still doing things with a lot of sort of the traditional small oil field contractor approach, lots of spreadsheets, skeleton financial system in the background, and there wasn't a lot of formal tool sets in the operation, and we were feeling every hour of every day as managers. So probably about 2008, we sat down and said, look, if the economy slows down and we start to go into a counter cycle, we want to start investing in our infrastructure for project delivery. And so we had a hit list, and of course around that 2008, 2009 time frame, a lot of that did actually happen, so we started to slow down substantially. So right away we started engaging and doing technology selection for project delivery. So we looked at an ERP system, looked at dock control systems, enterprise resource planning system. So we spent a couple of years basically selecting, tailoring the system to exactly what we need and want. And we customized it heavily towards our construction execution methodologies that we use. And a lot of that come from our oil and gas or pulp and paper days when we were a shutdown turnaround company. A lot of that discipline for financial accountability and being able to clearly articulate your position in a project schedule was built into us from shutdowns, because you have such a limited amount of time in a shutdown and the owner has planned that facility to come back up. And that sort of every 24 hours, know your position, know where you're at in your project schedules, have your financials ready to report, was a cycle that was ingrained in us because of how we had to report with the owners of facilities we were doing shutdowns and turnarounds on. And it was a very, very entrenched process for us. And that was partially one of the reasons we got invited up, along with our field execution, to go into these projects, because a lot of people were starting to leave the pulp and paper industry as the oil sands and other major projects were starting to draw off these professionals that could execute these projects. And so when we got invited up, a lot of them said, you know, you guys have this proven track record with us in some very challenging environments. And they're seeing a very stark contrast when they themselves were entering into these projects. And it kind of was the footprint to say, hey, we're going to get you up and get you doing something, a piece of one of these projects, get your feet wet, but apply those same principles that we're using in the shutdown turnarounds segment of our work.
We were a small company. We were nimble. We could move fast and responsive. We worked with the client to be cost effective and meet the budget and schedules. We didn't have a system set in place that was, this is our system, you either like it or you don't like it. We're not changing, that's the way it is. We were nimble. We molded to the client's requests. So it made us cost effective, it made us fast on the projects, and that's what they were looking for. I gotta say, there's gotta be a white angel looking over us, because we're probably having our best 2 years in the history of the company right now.
No kidding.
In the downturn, and we actually in 2008 went through the same thing. For some reason, the client we were working for at that time was kind of out of tune with the rest of them. and they had major projects going, and we went through 8 and 9 without blinking an eye, and it looks like, by the grace of God, we're going to go through this one not blinking too hard either.
In the downturn, we basically had to shake down our supply chains, shake down our rates, get lean not a lot leaner. As a company, we've made decisions to stay lean. So there wasn't big cuts to be made. But we did make cuts, and we did go to our vendors and said, we're all in this together. As a team, we're going to have to come back and be a more competitive offering.
Well, I don't think you're going to ever see any more what we call mega projects, which exceed the $1 billion in construction. We're looking at, it seems like the trend now is between $10 and $100 million projects, mostly around the 30 to 50 million. We're also seeing a lot more risk trying to be put on the contractors by the owners rather than them taking it all. So it's to me, it's a new phase in the construction life that we've been used to. And you have to change or you're not in the game. Even though we're doing well right now, touch wood, it's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah, it's something you live with. You understand that as a company that competitively lives on its projects, your company lives project to project.
So when I'm sitting on the lawnmower at home on the weekends, I'm thinking, you know, when's it going to change? Is it going to change? What do we have to look forward to? How do we have to readapt the company to stay with the times? I think we're in a situation of uncertainty. Of number one, are we going to get some pipelines approved out of this province? If we don't, I'd hate to say what's going to happen, because we all know it. Oil generates the major revenue out of this province, and if we can't get it out of here economically and fast, it's going to affect everybody. To me, get rid of the peaks and valleys. Keep an even keel. Everything runs smooth. Everybody knows what they're doing. They know what to expect. They know what to plan for. And it just makes a much smoother economy to live in. When it peaks, we can't keep up to the construction. We can't keep up to supplying material. We're bringing in foreign workers. It's crazy. And then it goes in the valley and all of that stuff disappears. And we make do with what we've got in the province. And then it peaks again. We go it seems like nobody really learns. It just, no, maybe it's out of control of most people. It's controlled by certain people in the world, and that's the lifestyle we got to live with. But it's not good for anyone. Because we've stayed nimble, we're able to move quickly and up and down. And yes, there's some people who will probably lose their jobs because there's no call for them anymore. That's the sad thing about when things like this hit, is when you have to let families go, or men go that are supporting a wife and children. That's probably the saddest thing, or the worst thing when you own a company. Is it's nice to hire all these people because now you're creating a living for them, but when it comes to an end and you got to say, Johnny, don't need you anymore, and he's got to take that news home to his family. It's not a good feeling. I know we're all conscious about the environment and everything else, but with today's technology, pipelines are the safest transportation of gas and oil. When's the last time we've had a rupture in this province? If we've ever had one that I can remember that's a major one. Number two, when this pipeline leaves this province, I think this is where the federal government has to step in and say, address royalties that every province wants on that footage that's running through their province. It's killing the projects financially because the big pipeline companies can't afford to, what's left in it by the time they pay all the royalties and look after the natives and whoever else is involved that wants their hands in the pot. There's nothing left once it goes into that ship to be sailed across the ocean. Well, I think that's where the federal government has to get a backbone and look at what's good for the country. What is economical for the country? The lifestyle we live, we need money to live that lifestyle. And if we can't sell our raw products or whatever you want to call it to generate that revenue, where are we headed? Third world country?
Well, I think that's what everybody's looking for, is a transition plan, a responsible transition plan. I don't think at this point anybody's debating that we have to get to a more carbon neutral footprint. I think there's lots of valid science at this point, and the conversations are being had, but it's not like flicking a switch. There's organizations and groups that are working towards collaborative solutions, like things like waste heat, which a lot of these processes are very intense, and we all see the pictures of stacks belching steam and exhaust heat. And it's actually something we're investing in, is some thermal recovery technologies that are currently complementary to process. So we've significantly invested with a group out of the US to maybe bring it up and propose it as a made in Alberta solution when we apply it to the process facilities here. So we're doing our part to look at a technology that potentially can be very complementary, and if not displace some of the thermal generation or thermal recovery technologies here. Yeah, we were looking at moving into the power industry, power generation, power distribution. That's going to be probably the big employer of the province in the future, as we go more towards rather than an oil and gas based economy, more towards electric cars. I think I read today Montreal is making it a code of construction to have power plugs for recharging cars in every house when they build new houses now. So power is going to be the new oil and gas. This technology we're looking at, it's a thermal recovery technology that converts waste heat into power. So waste product from the forest industry or waste heat locations within these plant sites. At these volumes, when we're talking about millions of pounds of steam an hour generated, there's a lot of heat that economically can't be recovered with current technology. So we're looking at technologies that fall into that band of recovery that can become cogeneration sites with a low cost of install and maintenance. So we're just working with the company right now to get some patents in place, and then we're looking to introduce it to the province. And the whole goal is to really make this an Alberta-based energy solution that really looks at, with the carbon pricing and the carbon footprint that we have in process, is looking at how we can offset that carbon footprint, recover the thermal energy that we can't currently economically harvest from existing process, and bring that back. And it'll go a long ways towards it won't move us completely to carbon neutrality, but it's one of the first big steps in that direction.
Part of our success is, even though I'm the president of the company, I can be reached at anybody at any time. And I'm willing to talk to anybody at any time. So you don't have to go through a secretary and a VP to get to me. You can come direct to me. And the clients have really liked that over the years, because if there's an issue, they can come direct to me.